Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Rowell. Alright, we're going to do another episode of Bites and Nibbles with Breck today. You may recall in the past I've done recipes that have been submitted by some of my viewers, but I haven't really done one of those in a while, instead favoring things out of the Instant Pot or some of the cookbooks that I have here. But I want to return to that. It turns out I've been looking at my emails recently. There's a lot of good stuff that's come from you guys. And so we're going to try one of those today. This recipe comes to us from our friend Dr. Susan Flanagan, who submitted about a month ago a recipe for a chicken pot pie that looks really, really good. Now, there's a couple questions I have about the recipe, and I'm going to kind of have to figure it out as we go along, make it up as we go along. But like I said, this looks really good, and let's take a look at the ingredients. Alright, here are our ingredients. First off, we're going to start with some chicken breasts, a little bit of flour, some tarragon, some chicken broth, some heavy whipping cream, obviously some pie crusts, a little butter, an egg, and our veggies. And the veggies is kind of open. You can do what you want to on this. They recommend things like carrots and celery and potatoes and the likes, but I've decided to skip the potatoes in favor of some broccoli. And I've already cut it up into little bite-sized pieces, so it's ready to go. We have our onion, of course, which I've also chopped up, and some fresh peas. So this looks good. Let's get going on this. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees, and that's really easy. It already defaults to that number, and all I got to do is press start. So we'll catch up with this when it heats up. Now the recipe specifically says take 4 chicken breasts, but these are absolutely massive chicken breasts. There were 5 of them in the package, and it was about 4.5 pounds worth of chicken right there. The recipe also says 2 pounds, so I've taken 3 of the chicken breasts. It's going to be probably a little bit more than normal, and I put it in this baking pan here, and we are going to coat it with our heavy whipping cream. Get a nice solid coating over the whole thing here. And we are going to put that in the oven for 30 minutes at 350 degrees. Hasta la vista, chicken. See you in 30 minutes. Alright, 30 minutes have passed, and we are going to turn off everything here. We're going to remove the chicken. Just going to set it here aside, and we're going to remove the chicken, and then we're going to save the juices. We're going to save the milk or the whipping cream and any of the juices that have come off from the chicken during the baking process. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare our veggies by blanching them. Now I got to admit, I had no idea what blanching was either. As far as I'm concerned, Blanche is just one of the characters from the Golden Girls, but blanching is actually a cooking process where you cook veggies very quickly under boiling water, and then after a certain period of time you immerse it in cold water to stop the cooking process. Basically it locks in a lot of the flavor and the nutrients, and yet still gives you that cooked consistency. So we're going to pour our cauliflower, our carrots, and our celery into the boiling water. And we are going to allow them to cook for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to put them into ice water to cool them off. Alright, so that's been about 5 minutes. We're going to turn the heat off. We're going to drain the water out of our veggies, and then we're going to immerse it in cold water. Alright, into the strainer we go. Let it drain out really nice and well here. And then we're going to pour it into the ice water. At this point we're also going to add our peas and let them kind of mix in there all together. And we'll catch up with that in a little bit. Looks like a good start, huh? Now while my onions are sauteing, I've also taken it upon myself to cut up the chicken into little pieces. It's cool enough now to handle, and basically the recipe says cut it up into 1-inch chunks. I wanted it to be a little bit smaller than that, so I cut it up into about 1/2-inch chunks. But that's ready now to go when we get to that point. Okay, our onions are well sauteed, ready to go. I am going to add between 5 and 7 tablespoons of flour, and we're going to just kind of mix it all in, keep it cooking, keep it smooth, and basically we want to just mix it around for about 5 minutes and keep the flour from burning. Alright, it's been about 5 minutes, and now I'm going to add 1.5 cups of chicken broth, and we're just going to kind of stir this all together and until it thickens up. Which it should do very nicely. Alright, a couple minutes have passed and our chicken broth and onions and flour have thickened up really nicely. Now you recall when I cooked the chicken in the oven that we cooked it with the heavy whipping cream, and it said at the end to collect that heavy whipping cream, put it aside. At this point we're going to mix it back in and continue stirring again in order to get it all blended together really nice. And this is going to kind of be the base of our pot pie. Yummy. Now one of the ingredients they say that's kind of optional if you want is you can mix some cognac in here. Now I don't have any cognac, and it's Sunday, and Texas liquor stores are all shut down on Sunday, and they don't have things like cognac in the grocery stores, so I'm not going to really go that direction. Like I said, it's an optional ingredient. If you want to do it, you can do it and it'll get mixed in at this point, but I'm not going to do that. We're just going to stick with the basic ingredients, and we're going to let this cook a little bit until it thickens up. Now at this point the recipe says you can take a swig of that cognac yourself if you want. At this point I got everything pretty well mixed together, and I'm going to add in a little salt, a little pepper, and a little tarragon for flavor. I did about a teaspoon each of the salt and pepper, maybe a little bit more of the pepper, and kind of just a pinch of the tarragon. You can also use rosemary if you like that. I had the tarragon, I didn't have any rosemary, so I went with that. That'll give it some nice flavor. It actually smells really good. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Alright, this has been allowed to simmer for a couple of minutes just to kind of get everything mixed in. Now I'm going to add my veggies and my chicken. And I'm just going to kind of gently stir it and mix it all together. And that's going to be the guts of my chicken pot pie. Looks good, doesn't it? Yummy. Oh man, does that look good, huh? That's going to be really tasty. Now, first thing I'm noticing here is I probably got way more ingredients for one chicken pot pie. So we may end up using half of it here and saving the rest of it and make another chicken pot pie. And if it's as good as this looks like it's going to be, I'll have no problem making that go away. Okay, next thing I've done is I've transferred the concoction into a casserole dish, and we're going to put this in the oven and we're going to cook it for about 30 minutes at 350. In we go. I keep remembering my oven's not that deep, so I got to rotate it that way or else it'll hit the glass when I open. So I'll see you in about 30 minutes. Let's set the timer for 30 minutes and we're good to go. See you in 30 minutes. Alright, so while the concoction is baking in the oven, I've taken it upon myself to prepare the pie crust. So basically, it comes with two different pie crusts, a top and a bottom. So I've unrolled one of them, just kind of spread it in nice and smoothly into my pie tin. It recommends a glass pie tin over like a tin one. I didn't have a glass one. I only had a tin one, but I found a ceramic one at the grocery store that should work. It should be rated up to 500 degrees, and we're not going to come anywhere near that. So I've prepared the pie crust, the bottom pie crust, and when the casserole itself comes out of the oven, it will be dished into the pie tin, and then we will cover it up with the other pie tin, or with the other crust on the top. We've got about 10 more minutes to go here, so this is starting to look really good. Now, as I read the recipe, it actually appears that the recipe is designed to actually be done in the casserole dish like that. But it's called a chicken pot pie for a reason, and if it isn't in pie tin, it isn't really a pie, right? All right, 30 minutes have passed by. We're gonna silence the timer, but we're gonna keep the oven on because we are going to cook it again once we get it into the pie tin. So we're gonna pull this thing out. Oh man, look at that. That looks really good, doesn't it? That looks good enough to eat. It's also hot enough to eat. All right, now I gotta admit, I cheated a little bit. I had to take a little taste test of the filling, and the filling is really good. So I'm really excited about this. I think this is gonna turn out to be a good one. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start scooping out some of the filling, and we're gonna put it into the pie crust and build it up really nice and thick and get a lot of it in there, so we're good to go. And then we can throw it back in the oven and let it cook the rest of the way. Alright, so I've laid the second pie crust on top of the first one. Kind of cut it around the edges with the scissors just to get it to match a little bit. There's a little excess that hangs off the end. Kind of pinched it all together so it kind of stays in there. And now I'm going to poke some holes in it with a knife here just so that we can get some vent holes on it, and that will allow the juices to kind of pop out and allow it to vent a little bit. But I'll tell you, this looks really good. Now, before we throw this into the oven, I want to coat the top of it with an egg mixture. This is basically 1 egg and about a tablespoon of water. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to coat the top of it, and it'll kind of protect the cover, the top, so it doesn't burn as much, and it kind of stays moist. Because you get it in the oven too much, and you could actually end up burning the crust, and we don't want to do that. That's no good, right? So I'm just using my basting brush. Making a point to hit every little bit of it, especially around the edges. Oh, that looks good. Alright, I put my pie on a cookie sheet and we are ready to cook this thing. So the oven is still preheated to 350. I'm going to open up the door, pick up the cookie sheet here, slide it in kind of on the middle rack, and we're going to close this and cook it for about 25 minutes. See you in 25 minutes. Alright, 25 minutes have passed. It's got a nice golden crust on top and it looks pretty good. So we're going to let this thing cool off for a little bit, and then we're going to give it our all-important taste test. I've also taken the rest of the crust filling and put it into a plastic container, and if this is good, we'll make another one. Alright, it's time for the all-important taste test. Now I gotta admit, I cheated a little bit because I tasted the filling before I even put it into the pie crust. So I know this is gonna be really good. It looks good, it smells good, it's everything you'd want out of a pot pie without having actually tasted it yet. So let's give it an all-important taste test. Oh yeah, really, really good. Yeah, very happy with this one. One of the things that Dr. Susan Flanagan put in her email to me is that this had to be enjoyed with a nice large glass of milk. So you know me, challenge accepted on that one. But this was a good recipe, definitely worth try. It takes a little time to do. It probably was about 2 hours of prep time because there's a lot of stages where you're cooking different parts of it, but definitely worth the trouble. Now it seems to me, from the way the recipe was written, is that this is maybe supposed to be more of a casserole than actually in the pie. It sounded like maybe what they wanted you to do was prepare everything in the casserole dish like I did, and then rather than transfer it into the pie tin and do it that way, just take the pie filling, the pie crust, and cover it on the top of the casserole dish. But like I said, if they're going to call it a chicken pot pie, it's got to be in a pie tin, right? So that's how I did it. I kind of made it up. I'll kind of adjust the recipe a little bit that I put in the description below to describe exactly what it was that I did to get this result, and we'll go from there. So anyway, I think this was a successful recipe. This wasn't a cornbread one that we're going to have to revisit sometime and try and make it right. I think this is very good just the way it is, and I'm going to sign out with that. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Bon appetit.